Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. Hi, I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Island families. This evening's edition will host Legislative Issues with Jim Parisi, where we bring the legislature into your living room. We hope you enjoy this edition of Legislative Issues and Labor Vision.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision, where we bring the General Assembly right into your living room. My name is James Parisi. I'm a field representative with the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals, and I'm your host this evening. This is presidential election season throughout the country, and today we're pleased to have the Secretary of State join us to talk about the Rhode Island presidential primary. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jim. Okay. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So Nellie Gorbea is a recently elected Secretary of State. You've been in the job just over a year now.
That's correct, yep.
So how did you get involved in politics? Was this your first shot at running for office?
It was actually my first shot at running for office, which probably makes me unusual for a statewide elected, particularly for someone who can't actually self-fund. But I've been involved in the community and in politics in Rhode Island for a long time. In fact, I'm originally from Puerto Rico and met my husband when we were both studying in New Jersey, and he got a tenure track position at the University of Rhode Island. So by the time I got married with him, he had a job and I didn't, and the job was here in Rhode Island. So that's what brought me here. And one of the very first things I did, since I didn't have family, my family was back in Puerto Rico and his family was in Washington State, and I had an interest in public policy. The first thing I did was to join a board or commission, and so in this case it was the Governor's Hispanic Commission, the Governor's Commission on Hispanic Affairs, back in the 90s, and it was my gateway to meeting a lot of different people. And Rhode Island, I'm very proud to say, across the country, is a very welcoming community of others, and that's been the history of our state.
I'm glad you say that, because I'm a native of New York, and people who grew up in Rhode Island never quite understood why I'd want to choose here, but they don't know what a gem this place is.
It is. It's fantastic. And now we have 3 children with 3 young girls that I'm very proud I'm raising as Rhode Islanders. It's a fantastic community.
So I know you are not new to the world of Secretary of State, because you did a stint in the Secretary of State's office prior to being elected on your own right. Why don't you let our viewers know what you did under prior Secretary of State Brown?
Yep. Secretary of State Matt Brown hired me as his Deputy Secretary of State. I was the Director of Administration, so I ran the day-to-day operations of the office those 4 years, and we were fortunate enough to come in at the same time as the Help America Vote Act monies were dispersed to the states. And so we spent 4 years modernizing election systems. We created the central voter registration system, where we took 39 cities and towns, each had a voting list, and we put it all together into a statewide database. We also did a lot of modernization in terms of procedures in the office, set up the corporation's database with sort of new technology. We really upgraded the website as well, and so created Lobby Tracker, the Open Meetings portal, so that you can today actually receive an email when you're interested in your city or town council meeting, or we're a state agency, the Airport Corporation, Commerce RI. You can actually sign up through our website to receive an email when that meeting notice goes up and what the agenda is. And that'll happen under Secretary Brown's administration.
So when people who don't know much about your office wonder what the Secretary of State does, what's your 2-minute answer to what your office is responsible for?
It's historically been a filing cabinet for business and government. We have 4 big areas that we work on: the state archives and the state library. Businesses and nonprofits have to incorporate in my office. We also have the public information of open meetings, lobbying registrations, and then elections. We handle the voter registration and we prepare the ballot. In Rhode Island, The day of elections and afterwards is handled actually by the Nonpartisan Board of Elections, which is a separate agency. But I am the state's chief election official to the feds. So it's historically been a filing cabinet. I want to turn it into a hub, a gateway that connects people with their government and provides them the kind of information so that we can engage and empower all Rhode Islanders.
So it's presidential election season, and it's been a really interesting race. We have contested races in both the Republican and Democratic primaries right now. Why don't we spend a few minutes talking about Rhode Island's presidential primary, because Rhode Islanders haven't had a chance to weigh in on this yet. When is our primary?
Our presidential preference primary is April 26th this year, and it's still going to be exciting, I think. I know that people say, oh no, it'll be all decided by then. Not really. Your vote really matters, and turnout matters. Campaigns, elected officials, we're all looking to see what's going to happen on April 26th.
So I know your office has a role in determining the ballot placement of not only the candidates, but delegates as well. So why don't you let our viewers know, what your role is in that part of the process?
Yes. So as part of designing the ballot or laying out the ballot, we have to come up with an order of the names. And as you can imagine, that's pretty hard. In previous administrations, this was determined to be done by lottery. And so just a few weeks back, we had some representatives from the lottery come with their machine with the little balls and everything, and we stood there. Every candidate had a name, so we even drew the balls for which party would go first. In this case, it was the Republican Party. So the Republican presidential candidates were each given a number. The balls were put into the machine, it spun around, and they popped out. And that's the order in which they're in the ballot. So if you go in and you see, why is uncommitted in the middle of the field? Well, that's because we are required to put a line for uncommitted, and that's the order in which the balls came out.
And there are 5 choices on the Republican ballot?
There are 5 choices, which includes the uncommitted.
Yeah, and the same number of choices on the Democratic side.
That
as
is
well.
correct. Yes. I think some Rhode Islanders may be surprised to find out that there are actually 2 other candidates in addition to Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, but that's what was it. They went through the process and they're eligible to be on the ballot.
So when Rhode Island voters go into the voting booth on April 26th, what are they going to be voting on? Just the presidential candidate of their choice?
So they're going to be, each party has their own rules as to how exactly the voting is going to happen. But on sort of a broad stroke, they will be voting for, yes, a presidential candidate, but also for delegates to go to their conventions this July.
So they're going to be individuals running as both Republican presidential delegate candidates as well as on the other side.
And who you vote, you can only vote in one party primary. So whether you have friends on both sides or not, you have to choose either you're a member of that party, or if you're unaffiliated, you show up that day, you say, I want to affiliate or vote in this primary. That immediately makes you a member of that party. You vote on the delegate and your candidate, and then on your way out, you can either disaffiliate again or you can remain in that party going forward.
Now, on the ballot, do you have to vote for the delegates only for the choice you've made for president? How does that work?
So that's different for each party. For the Democrats, you actually have to vote for the delegate. You vote for the delegates for the presidential candidate that you are supporting. So, for example, if you're supporting Bernie Sanders, you would vote for delegates within the Bernie Sanders column. If you were voting for Hillary Clinton, you would be voting for delegates within the Hillary who have said they're committed to her. On the Republican side, it's different, and I want to remind people. This is not, the state government deciding how these rules should be made. This is really, each party comes up with their rules. And on the Republican side, it's a little bit different. You can actually vote for a candidate and then vote for delegates, even if the delegate is not supporting the candidate that you voted for.
So your office also had a role in what the selection process was, or the order was for the delegates themselves.
And it's the exact same process. It's a lottery, and we had a lot of delegates this year. So there were a lot of little balls in the machine coming up one by one.
I guess this is the portion of the program where I thank you for picking me last on the Congressional District 12 Hillary Clinton delegates. But maybe being last is better than being in the middle, right?
I think so.
We all wanted to be
actually you match Senator Clinton, who's also the last. So you can say vote for the ones on the end.
Sure. So the election is going to be in April. What is the deadline for people to register to vote if they want to vote in the Rhode Island presidential primary?
So it's in the Rhode Island Constitution that for every election or primary, people have to be registered 30 days before that event happens. So for the April 26th presidential preference primary, the deadline is March 27th, which coincides with Easter Sunday. Having said that, every city or town board of canvassers will have a process for accepting registrations on those days. I was just speaking with Louise Faniff, who's the board of canvassers clerked up in Burrillville. And she's saying that she will be there at town hall on Easter Sunday to accept anybody who wants to register to vote. Each city and town is different. You can call that office and find out what the process is, although I would encourage everybody to go ahead and register early, if possible.
And how do Rhode Islanders register to vote? What are the options out there?
So the options right now are to fill out a paper form, and you can download that form through the Secretary of State's website as well as through the Board of Elections website. Once you download it, print it out, fill it out, you send it into your local Board of Canvassers, or you can deliver it yourself. I am working on legislation to modernize this process, and hopefully soon Rhode Islanders will be able to register to vote online, meaning through the internet or on their phone, and I'm pretty excited about the possibility of getting that done soon this year. It won't be ready by the presidential preference primary, but it is my hope to have it in place before the fall primary and elections.
Sure. Before we talk about the legislation that you're working on, in terms of deadlines for the presidential primary, I know there are some people who are not in Rhode Island or otherwise unable to show up on the polls on Election Day, April 26th. Is there a statewide deadline for asking for a mail ballot?
There are statewide. The statewide mail ballot deadline is April 5th. It's 21 days before the actual election happens. That's set by law. You can, however, within those 20 days before the primary, ask for an emergency mail ballot at your local Board of Canvassers, and they will make sure that you can get one and fill it out. So really, I hope people plan ahead of time and ask for their mail ballots ahead of time, but if you don't, you can still try to get one through the emergency mail ballot process.
Sure. And as we go forward, we actually have 3 elections then this year. We have the presidential primary in April. When's the party primaries for all the other office holders?
The second Tuesday of September is the September primary, which is the party primaries, and then the November election happens on the first Tuesday.
Okay. So we've got a few minutes left. I'm sure my viewers would love to know what kind of legislative initiatives you're working on this year, and maybe we could start by continuing the conversation about online voter registration. Is that common elsewhere, or is it available in other states that we should be really looking at it here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are over 30 states that already have online voter registration, including our neighbors of Connecticut and Massachusetts. Nothing annoys me more than to see the commercial that Secretary Galvin has right now on TV to get people to register online. But we will have that soon enough. I'm very excited about the leadership that our General Assembly has shown in this area, along with the governor. And we'll also be working this year to implement having new voting machines for the fall elections. Our voting systems the machines themselves are over 17 years old. And they were purchased by then Secretary Langevin in 1997. So as you can imagine, if you think of a scanner that you would have that's that old, it's hard to find parts for it. And so I made a compelling case to our leadership, and we have, they passed a law last year that I could go ahead and start a procurement process for the new voting systems, and I'm excited to be able to kick that off very, very soon. So that will involve a lot of training and education, and I look forward to working with your members and with the unions and with many other community organizations in getting the word out. The process itself will not be dramatically different because it's
not going to be all on a screen.
No,
There's still
it's
going
a
to be
paper ballot. It may be that instead of an arrow, you're filling in an oval, but it's still a paper ballot. You will be scanning it through, putting it through a scanner that then tabulates the votes. But, the machines will look a little bit different, and so we're going to do a lot of public education with regards to that. I'm also working in terms of, legislation on lobby reform, making it easier for lobbyists to file and to figure out, and for just common people to figure out, am I a lobbyist, am I not a lobbyist? Because our form of representative government absolutely depends on lobbying. Everybody is entitled to lobby their elected official. What happens is that once there are moneyed interests involved or other resources that are really paying for access or paying for efforts, that's when we, as a community, say, no, we need to fully disclose who it is who's trying to influence our government. And so my legislation, which came after, I put together a lobbying task force, I talked with a wide variety of stakeholders, everybody from actual lobbyists to the ACLU, to Common Cause Rhode Island, to, nonprofits that are there at the State House as well, so that we could come out with the best piece of legislation possible. And so we've simplified the statute, we've clarified who is and who isn't, and then, very importantly, we have strengthened it so that there is now a legal way for me to investigate someone who we believe or the community believes is lobbying but is not registered and not fully disclosed.
I know that was front page story a couple of years ago about what role, if any, or what authority, if any, the Secretary of State had when there were people who actually didn't register but were doing what one might consider lobbying.
Yep. So that will be addressed by this new legislation. I am very proud of the hard work that both my office and the General Assembly leadership and the governor, we've all been working together on this, and I think we will have in the end the most transparent, easy to use lobbying statute in the country. And I think that will be a really positive headline.
So I know in terms of lobbying itself, it'd be important for our viewers to know that you currently have quite a bit of lobbying information available to the public just by visiting your website.
Absolutely, and we've just redid our website to make it even easier for people to find the information. Once this bill passes, we will be revamping the Lobby Tracker website, but Lobby Tracker is the program on our website that you can go online, find out, who, if you've heard the name of a lobbyist and you want to see who they're representing, you can do that. You can see how much they're being paid. You can also look for entities. If you have a concern about a company that might be paying for lobbying at the State House, you can look that up as well through our website. The Department of State wants the public to know that government really is for the people, of the people, by the people. It is there to serve you, and you have all the right in the world to, a wide variety of information that makes you a more informed citizen.
So we've talked about legislation related to online voter registration and lobbying reform and your work on getting machines. It sounds like a full plate, but I'm sure you've got other projects in the fire. What else are you working on this year?
So my other really big initiative has to do with our state archives and library, and it has to do actually with education. I am very excited to have brought on board somebody whose task is going to be a civics education coordinator. We have a lot of information in our state archives and the state library about Rhode Island history, about the civics structure of our state. Why not make it easily available to teachers, to homeschooling parents, to anybody who is interested in learning about how to be an engaged citizen of this state? We have our State House tours that children, and teachers come through every year. What could we do to make that an even richer experience by preparing materials for teachers? And I'm looking forward to working with the Federation and with the NEA to be able to provide the easiest and most accessible kind of information that allows us to really provide our children with the information that they need with regards to what a wonderful state we have, and learn from the lessons of mistakes that we may have had in our history. But certainly to be proud of being Rhode Islanders. We have nothing to envy others. This is the birthplace of religious freedom in this country. The United States would not be the country it is today had it not been for Rhode Island. And with that, there's a number of other examples of things where Rhode Islanders have really, been the first, and with good results. So I'm very excited about this new positioning of our office and the partnerships that we hope to build with teachers throughout the state.
I think it's terrific that not only will our students get exposed to an important history that they ought to know, but also get a better sense on advocacy, how to advocate, and how the process works. Because I've always believed if people had a better understanding of the process, they wouldn't get frustrated and they'd be more engaged.
Absolutely. I fully agree. And like I said, we're here to make sure that we can engage and empower all Rhode Islanders.
Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea, thank you very much for your time. Just to remind our viewers, we have a primary election coming up on April 26th, and if you want to register to vote, the deadline is
March 27th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jim.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision.
Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney. For more than 30 years, the Institute for Labor Studies and Research has been offering classes in English and math to people who attend a whole variety of our programs here at the Institute. And we all know how important solid skills in English and math are in terms of your ability to be functioning in society and ability to be able to grow and develop in the workforce. One of those areas that we rarely talk about is financial literacy. And we made a decision to focus on several sessions here where we talk about the importance of financial literacy and the impact it would have on you and your family and those around you in growing the kind of lifestyle that you hope to gain over a period of years. My guest today is Daniel Murphy, a Vice President, Home Loan Investment Bank. Daniel comes with a rich experience in financial literacy in the banking industry, and we're very appreciative for the fact that he would take time from his schedule to talk about the importance of financial literacy. Daniel, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
I think it's important to take a look at financial literacy in a bigger picture, because I think as soon as most people hear the word financial literacy, they think, oh, yeah, I don't want to hear about that. But I think math literacy, English literacy, and financial literacy is just as important as technology literacy.
Absolutely.
And so let's begin a series of discussions around segments of financial literacy. Can we begin with the thing that most people don't fully understand but know the importance of: banking, checks, and debit cards?
Absolutely. That in and of itself, the skills and tools to understand banking, the world of banking and how that works, that's financial literacy. That comprehension, that knowledge is something that can be applied from a very young age. When you open up your first savings account, whether you the Tooth Fairy gave you $5, well, you can put that $5 in your wallet and you can go and reward yourself with something, or you can put that in the bank and have it earn interest over time. And then compound interest will grow and grow. And the principles of saving will start at a young age. If that does not occur, you move on in life and suddenly you're graduating from college and you have student loan debt, and you really don't understand how you got yourself into that pickle with the credit card debt, student loans, and now all of a sudden you're going out in the workforce and you're earning money. And financial literacy covers the ability to earn, the ability to manage, the ability to invest, and then after you've done quite well, the ability to donate money.
That sounds, the whole piece on financial literacy is really interesting, and I think that knowledge and information can provide a much better lifestyle for somebody who does some planning. And it's not that you have to be very wealthy, it's that you have to get in the routine of understanding and saving. Let's start with that issue of, we know that we've been taught for a long time that really the job is, when you put your money in the bank, you want to balance your bank book every month and make sure you're always aware of how much money you have. I think that's almost changed a little bit with the debit card, because people see a debit card as this piece of plastic. I can go and I can get cash. It's a good thing because you're only taking your own money. Let's talk about how to balance your account, knowing how much money, how important it is to know how much money you have in your account. Even if you're not using a checking account, but you have that debit card, what happens when you overdraw? What impact could that have?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the first thing for any person who's trying to budget, whether it's their personal balance sheet or their household budget, you have to understand your income. You have to know where your revenue is coming in for that household or for yourself personally. And you also need to know your fixed and your variable expenses. To be able to find ways to increase your earnings or decrease your spending, those are things where you sometimes need to put it down on paper. Write down the days of the week, Monday through Sunday. Write down what you purchased to try to find the trends and things that you're buying that you may be able to live without. And by living without them, you'll be saving more money. So decreasing your expenses, increasing your income by virtue of being able to utilize and take the tools and the skills that you've learned throughout your lifetime to be able to apply that and say, okay, I can't afford this week. And that item may be something as simple as lip gloss. It may be buying a specialty item when you're at the grocery store. But if you're able to take examples in your own personal life and find ways to eliminate certain expenses, it may be dining out on Friday nights. And instead of doing that and costing you $50 that evening on Friday, you may be able to purchase dough at the grocery store and purchase all the favorite toppings for your pizza, make it at home and have that be a family event, save those monies, and at the end of the month, if you've done that 4 times, you have $200 that you can now dedicate to pay off a credit card or to go back and look at your budget and figure out where you could allocate those monies to reduce your expenses next month. So balancing a checkbook, it really is important to actually know where you're starting and where you're finishing each and every month, so that you need to understand your history. You need to understand your income. You also need to know where your money's going. Anytime you can stop money going out that is really unnecessary, that's essentially like having found money. You're discovering an opportunity to earn more. So instead of a part-time job, you may be able to eliminate expenses and increase your household income.
What about the philosophy that some people say you always pay yourself first, and when you get a paycheck, you take a little bit of money, and the same as you would pay a bill, you put it away and give it to somebody, or put it in an account to save it for a special day, to save it for savings that could be 20 years down the road. How important is it for people to get in the habit of putting that away?
It's funny you mention that. I still have the account that I opened at a very young age, and it has compounded interest for 38 years. The most important thing about that is to understand when you do pay yourself first, that is the reward. That is why we are able to go out and put in a solid day's work knowing what you're earning. But what you do with the money once you earn it, that's where financial literacy comes in. If you don't understand how to manage those monies, you invest it poorly. Sometimes if you're investing in yourself, well, that's a wise investment. If you're putting that money away, it's going to allow you the opportunity, whether it's for your own education or loved ones, purchase a vehicle or purchase a home. That money that is, again, compounding interest, so it is accruing every day that it's in the bank, it is accruing more and more interest for your benefit. Understanding the basic principles of banking will allow you to find the right accounts with the right bank that's going to give you the rewards necessary for you to save enough to make that big ticket purchase. Maybe it is a boat, a car, a house, or a wedding, or just, again, investing in yourself and continuing education like college or obtaining a master's degree. It really depends on each individual and what their personal goals are. And usually their personal goals will align with how they're spending. And when that person falls off that track, sometimes difficult to get back on track. Maybe a loved one asks for monies, and you understand that that person's not really valuing your money. They want to borrow from a friend or a family member. You also have to realize, well, if I can afford to help that person, you also you hope that when you're in a position of need, that person will be able to help you. But that's why banks are there. Banks are there to help you, to understand your personal situation, to be able to provide you a loan. And that's where your personal credit, your personal income, and your personal circumstances become very important. The more you know, you can prepare yourself for those next opportunities to borrow and make those dream situations that you've been dreaming about a reality.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.